It's the kind of move that sends shockwaves through the culture. Former NFL star and media heavyweight Shannon Sharpe has been cut from ESPN almost 2 weeks after settling a sexual assault lawsuit brought by an ex girlfriend. Now, Sharpe, once the outspoken co host of First Take and creator of the very popular club Shay, has been a defining voice in sports and culture. So, question we're asking is why was he let go? And what does this moment reveal about power, accountability, and how we treat Black male public figures, particularly those in crisis? Today, I've assembled a dynamic panel to help unpack what's really behind the termination of Shannon Sharpe from ESPN. Joining me this morning is going to be Dr. Omékongo Dibinga, a professor of cross-cultural communication at American University, Shay Taylor, an entertainment journalist and pop culture commentator, and Marcus Lamar. He's a sports journalist and host of Mark My Words Show, a podcast he's a podcaster and commentator who has covered professional athletes and breaking news on many channels, and he's also been very involved with NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball for well over 15 years. Super excited to have all of these dynamic commentators and thought leaders joining me to discuss this topic. Again, thank you. Everything on the internet right now, seemingly for the last couple of days, has been, if it's not Donald Trump, it's been Shannon Sharpe. But before I get to my panel, I just want to set the stage for what happened. In case you've been living under a rock and not following this story, here's what you need to know. The woman who accused Shannon Sharpe of sexually assaulting her not once, but twice in October of 2024 and then again in January of 2025. Now, she says that as a result of the sexual assault, she experienced emotional distress. She said it was intentional infliction of emotional distress. She said that Sharpe became violent over the course of their relationship and that he recorded without her permission their sexual encounters. Now, Sharpe never faced, as far as we know, any criminal investigation. We're not aware of any criminal charges that have been brought against him because of these allegations. And important to note that Shannon Sharpe denied the allegations. In fact, he called it a shakedown. And he said the relationship with his ex-girlfriend was 100% consensual. Now, earlier this month, the ex-girlfriend's lawyer posted this statement online. Quote, on April 20th, 2025, the Busby law firm filed a complaint in Nevada making several allegations against Shannon Sharpe on behalf of our client. He went on to say both sides acknowledge a long-term consensual and tumultuous relationship. After protracted and respectful negotiations, I'm pleased to announce that we have reached a mutually agreed upon resolution. All matters have now been addressed to our satisfaction, and the matter is now closed. The lawsuit will thus be dismissed with prejudice. Blah, blah, blah. So that's the lawyer saying basically there is a non-disclosure agreement and some amount of money, and probably a large amount of money has been paid to the ex-girlfriend to make this lawsuit go away. So no depositions, no discovery, no court proceeding, nothing more about this lawsuit or these allegations will be spoken by either Sharpe or the ex-girlfriend. I want to start with you, Marcus. You have reported on ESPN. You've been a guest on the network on many occasions. What do you think of Shannon Sharpe's departure? Was it expected? Are you surprised? Because Shannon said he was going back to the network.
Yeah, I think that was wishful thinking. I think Shannon left the network no choice. I want to take people back to September. If you all remember, Shannon accidentally, and I use the words accidentally because I wasn't there, but he accidentally leaked an Instagram live video in which he was having some type of relations with somebody or seemed to be in a very intimate or personal moment. And I knew from that moment on he was on borrowed time, meaning if he did anything that the network deemed to be a disgrace or conduct detrimental or unbecoming, they would probably part ways with him. So when it came out that he was being released from the network, I wasn't surprised at all, even though I think he has tremendous entertainment value and he is a asset to the network. This news comes simultaneously with the fact that Marcus Morris, a former NBA player, as well as Gilbert Arenas, have been arrested for either being involved in a gambling scandal or a fraud scandal. So if you all know anything about ESPN, the First Take show is their prize commodity. It's a cash cow. It's the show that they put the most resources into. It's the show that gets the most eyeballs over there. So you can't have a scenario in which you have Shannon Sharpe, a high-profile former NFL player, Hall of Famer, with Marcus Morris and Gilbert Arenas all seemingly embroiled in controversy on a show that they regularly contribute to in First Take and allow nothing to happen. So wasn't surprised by the move. It's unfortunate. I thought he was a great addition to the show, but I thought this was on brand, and I thought he left ESPN with no choice but to let him go.
So, Marcus, you think the September incident, as you call it, the accidental leaking of that sex tape, put this in motion? So it wasn't the lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault that did it. You'd say it was already in motion.
Well, yeah, and if you want to take it even further, if you go back to 2023, you remember Shannon got into a confrontation at the Lakers game with T. Morant, the father of NBA star Ja Morant. I thought his behavior in that instance was definitely not on brand for somebody of his stature and his caliber. But if you take it even further, there was a rumored split between him and Skip Bayless when the DeMar Hamlin tweet went out. And then if you remember, once he left ESPN, that's when the whole once he left Fox and joined ESPN, that's when the whole Instagram leak video happened. So there's been series of events or moments in which Shannon has either been involved in controversy. ESPN still decided to bring him on the network. But like I said, once that September incident happened, Stephen A. Smith and a bunch of people at the network tried to make it seem like, hey, this is an elderly man or a man in his 50s who is struggling with technology. But I can tell you, I don't have this source, but behind closed doors, I'm sure that they weren't the most pleased with Shannon. And from that moment on, I think it's been a hourglass, and it was just inevitable once the accusations came out in April.
Marcus, I'm laughing because you called a 50-year-old elderly.
Well, to the young,
middle age in your 50s.
Middle age, yes. I apologize.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna rep for the 50-year-old. All right. I gotta ask you this, Shay. I was very disturbed by this statement from the lawyer. Look, I'm a civil rights lawyer. I've been doing this for a long time. I know in these high-profile cases, the public wants to know the juicy details. They want all the salacious details, but 99.9% of these cases end in an out-of-court settlement. They end in a settlement with a non-disclosure agreement where you never, ever learn the facts. But this lawyer made an unusual statement when he was basically telling us it was over, nothing else to see here. And he said that they were involved in a consensual relationship. Now, ain't nothing consensual about sexual assault. If you recall, Shay, when this first broke, a lot of folks were saying this woman was just out for a money grab, that she knew what she was getting into, that she purposely targeted Shannon Sharpe. And when you hear a statement like that goes from sexual assault, my worst nightmare, to consensual, what did that make you think, or how are you feeling about that statement?
To be completely honest, I'm just confused, okay? And I just want to be very clear. This whole situation could have been avoided. I think this entire sexual assault, whether it's consensual, whether it's not, is all a simple play of you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I don't really know who to believe, to be honest. I'm going to be clear. It looks so sticky. It looks so chaotic. I don't know. But what I do know is that Shannon should have been not only sharp enough, no pun intended, to not even find himself in this situation, but like Marcus kind of said, is you older. Why are we playing these young kid games? Who told you to be OG on the playground? I'm just confused. I'm so confused at this moment. But hey, look, this is also a consequence. And I don't want to sit up here and preach, but you know, Black people, we love the Lord, right? I feel like God always sends the warning before destruction. Can I get an amen? Cat Williams told you on Club Shay Shay. Monique told you on Club Shay Shay, and he thought everything was funny. He was laughing all the time. Everything ain't funny. They try to warn you and tell you to not only protect your assets, but protect your legacy. They tried, and you still continue with the nonsense. So at this point in time, do I believe he's guilty? I don't believe that he's guilty. The only thing he is guilty of, like I said, is playing on that playground. Find a woman of your own age. I know it's hard. You still think you young, but you ain't.
But wait a minute, Shay. Women his age, elderly women, according to Marcus, can still be sexually assaulted. I hear what you're saying.
Very true.
The optics were horrible. This 54-year-old man dating a 19-year-old, somebody's kid, a girl young enough to be his own kid.
Yes.
Horrible optics on that. But Dr. Dibinga, let me get you into this, because I'm still troubled by this consensual relationship comment. Lawyer didn't have to go that far. I feel like that was put in the statement by the lawyer as a part of the negotiated settlement, as a way for Shannon to try to save his relationship with ESPN, other endorsements, and other, high-profile relationships that he may have had. Because if everybody says everything was consensual, then that means he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I think that's part of the problem when you're dealing with Busby. I mean, he has been someone who has been looked at as somebody who's a very, at best, shady lawyer who goes after powerful individuals. And this isn't to say anything about the accusations. I'm just talking about when you say that that's questionable. This is a guy who's done some, you look at Jay-Z and the Diddy things and so on and so forth. He's the type of guy who, throws stuff out there and then kind of dials things back. And so I think that this was kind of a CYA moment for him as well. And maybe that is something that Sharpe insisted on. But I think that the larger thing about, whether this happened, whether it was consensual or anything like that, one of the things that we're forgetting, we're talking about ESPN and the like, but the bigger conversation that needs to be had over why I knew he wasn't going to be back is Disney. I mean, this is Disney, and Disney's not going to have anybody on its staff who's on record saying, I'm going to choke you. Look at the headlines. Big black man chokes young white woman. Like, these are the things that be quoted as saying. Disney's not going to be having that as part of its, anyone as part of its broadcast. And so I think that's something we need to be mindful of. Other people are saying, he got Club Shay and so on and so forth. But he's been losing sponsors on Club Shay for months since, some of these first things came out. And so, I think that there was a lot of irresponsible things going on. And I know that people out there saying this is another black man getting taken down. But at the end of the day, this is just creepy stuff, Shannon. I have a 19-year-old daughter. And if I had got any voicemails of those types of conversations, like, I'm not supporting that network. I'm not supporting anybody who's around that. And so, and I know people want to get into the racial aspect of it, but there's a lot of other things in here that make Shannon worthy of all of the condemnation that he is receiving.
Well, let's go there, Marcus, on the race piece. So you've been around sports 15 plus years. You've seen how sports players are treated, black versus white. Some folks will say this is just locker room talk. Why is everybody, getting their draws in getting upset about it? Why are they getting their, clutching their pearls when they hear some of the things that were on that tape that Dr. Dibinga finds offensive? But do you think this would have been the same outcome if Shannon Sharpe was not an African-American male?
I think it would have been the same outcome because of the times we're living in. It's 2025, so in the spirit of people appearing to be politically correct, they're gonna separate themselves or distance themselves at least from somebody or something that they deem to be either a detriment to their business, or the majority of their consumers is not vibing with that person. So whether Shannon was white,
Marcus, let me just say this. You're right. It is 2025, but this is the era of Donald Trump. This is the era of grab them by the P and get elected not once, but twice as president. This is an era where you get a civil judgment of $80+ million for sexual assault, and you get rewarded with, all kinds of photos. Your mugshot goes viral and you make money on it. So this isn't some, pure, we're not living in an era where, this morality is at an all-time high. We're living in an era where a white man like Donald Trump can get away with what appears to be murder and be applauded and be promoted rather than, canceled or demoted.
So while I was preparing for the show, I know Dr. Dibinga said that sponsors are pulling out. Shannon has a deal with the Volume, which is set to expire in a couple of days. I'm not sure if Colin Cowherd and that network will renew his contract, but I checked Shannon's views on Club Shay and Nightcap, two immensely popular shows, still hotter than fish grease over there. So in my mind, or at least in this community specifically, Black people are not canceling Shannon Sharpe. Newsflash to anybody watching this: if you're expecting Black people to act as a monolith and say, "Hey, Shannon Sharpe, we condemn you, we're no longer going to support you or watch the content you put out," that's simply not going to happen. I've watched his views. He's still hitting 600 to 700,000 views on average. And I think the bigger picture, or the bigger thing that people need to focus on, is even though ESPN has parted ways with him, the importance of ownership and having your own channel, your own YouTube channel, or having motion going on outside of a major corporation. So that way, if things ever fall off the track, you still have something to lean back on. Shannon Sharpe is going to be just okay. I'm not saying he's going to come through this unscathed. Obviously, there will be some pow-pow because we have to make it seem like, you know, everyone is so self-righteous. But at the end of the day, people are still going to tune into him. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be one of those people because I think that he brings a lot of value when he's speaking about the NFL. And I think the entertainment value with him on both shows, Club Shay when he's interviewing guests, and with Chad Ochocinco over on Nightcap, it's too much to ignore.
What about that, Shay? So a young girl says she was sexually assaulted by a 54-year-old man. We hear, you know, these salacious, recordings. And Marcus says, "Oh, well, ESPN, your loss, our game. We're going to still watch him on his own platform. And it may blow up to be bigger than, you know, the views on ESPN." What does that say about how we value women and what we think about sexual assault in this country?
I think this is like, here's the thing. I think because we are living in a time where you don't know who's right and who's wrong. And for so long, you know, and I can say this confidently as a Black woman, for so long, we have seen our Black men get demonized through the media. It's guilty before innocent and not innocent before guilty. So I tend to lean towards what Marcus is saying until I have the facts, you know, that he did sexually assault this young girl.
Wait a minute, Shay. When you say the facts, like,
right,
what will be the definitive facts for you? Are you saying until a jury of his peers determine?
It would have to be just. Yeah, it would have to be just for the simple fact that I know he settled, but I don't know if he actually sexually assaulted her. Now, do I think it's kind of weird that you are dating 19-year-olds? Yes, that's a red flag. That is a red flag.
But wait a minute, Shay. Let's use Jay-Z. When Jay-Z was accused by this young girl of raping her, Jay-Z said, "Hell no, I'm not paying you a red dime. Not only am I not going to pay you, I'm going to countersue you. I'm going to investigate, bring out the evidence to prove that I didn't have. I'm not going to pay this girl. I'm not going to be extorted." So not to say that everybody that settles a lawsuit has done what they've been accused of. Sometimes you're settling just to avoid the cost of litigation. There may be all kinds of reasons. But the payment of a lawsuit and the issuance of a statement that this was a consensual relationship, you know, we ain't stupid. This tells us that he thought there was some exposure and he needed to shut this down. So when you say you need more facts, what else do you need?
I'm going to need to dig into Ms. Gabrielle just a little bit more. And, you know, I don't want to demonize her for the way she makes money or the way she lives life. But let's be clear, we don't really know too much about her other than that, like Dr. Umar was saying, is that, you know, she sells, you know, her pictures and her bodies for cash apps. That's as far as we know. So I just don't want to be, I'm not one to lean towards someone sexually assaulted someone without the facts, because I would hate to be wrong. Now, I'm also not saying that he is innocent either. I don't like what he's done. I don't like the record of how he moves. And will this affect his brand? Absolutely, especially with Black women. Because we're tired of the stupidness. I don't want to keep coming out and be your hero and be your spokesperson and be your advocate if you're going to keep putting yourself in these stupid situations, right? So do I believe we need to value women more? Absolutely. Do I believe Shannon needs to stop grow, probably get, probably figure out where he's going to go from here. Absolutely. Less ego. Absolutely. He has a lot of growth that he needs to tend to. But I don't know where society or the internet is leaning. You have people like Marcus that are going to continue to watch. The numbers are up. But if you scroll on TikTok and you see where the public perception is going, a lot of people are not excusing Shannon at all. Actually, I believe he may get canceled for this very act. Yes, there is power in having your own brand. Yes, there is power in having your own business. But I'm going to be clear. Nobody's above being canceled. Okay? Not even Unc with the cigars and the catchphrases and all of that. Nobody's above being canceled. So this really may be the last of him, So we going to see. We want to see. This is very difficult, though, but I will say I would like to see more maturity from him moving forward. I'll put it as simple as that.
Nobody's above being canceled. Dr. Dibinga, Marcus says he did some research and said, look, his numbers are solid and folks are going to continue to watch him. And because he has his own podcast, his own brand, he can continue and he could maybe get more viewers on his own platform than he was getting on the ESPN show. And we've seen lots of big shows on broadcast, on cable news tank in comparison to what people are getting on their own platforms. What do you say to that? This may be unintended prize for Shannon.
Well, he could grow that platform more, but the question is always going to remain, what could have been? Right. I mean, there's multi-million-dollar contracts that he's lost out on. I know that his support with Black people is going to be strong, but are there other audiences that he can't reach now because of this? Maybe, more middle-aged white people who may have supported him. Are there going to be more guests who are going to avoid coming on his show now that the ESPN thing has been announced because they're afraid of any blowback as well? And so I do believe that, he can grow this platform, but again, there are other people who are going to be avoiding him because of what happened. And so he's going to be losing out on that. And so is he somebody who's just going to remain popular with Black audiences, or is he going to be able to gain that national crossover appeal that many people like him for? But now some people are going to associate him with being a rapist, whether it's true or not. And so I feel like no matter how far he may go with the platform, he's always going to be limited with it. Now, he may be limited in a way that's fine with him because he didn't really seem to care. When you listen to his announcement about it, he seemed to be more upset with the fact that he's overshadowing his brother's induction into the Hall of Fame than this actual case. So this is something that he's kind of, wiping his shoulders off with. But we're going to see how far this goes, particularly as relates to potential sponsors loss, guests who may not come on the show. And quite honestly, I don't want people to put him in conversations with people like Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and all of these other types of guys, because there's been no trials, there's been no convictions, and like you said, that statement talked about consensual relationships. But unfortunately, in our society, people have a tendency to do that. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes forward. Will he never mention this again? Or will he talk about the importance of being responsible and owning and understanding your platform before you lose much of your influence? He could be a teachable moment for all of us if he chooses to speak on it in a different way than he has so far.
Marcus, so you hear Dr. Dibinga saying, look, I have a 19-year-old daughter. This isn't, who I want her to be in a relationship with. I wouldn't, want her involved with a guy his age involved in this kind of conduct. But might he use this? Because there are a lot of guys who are going to be slapping him on the back saying, go, bro, you did that. What does he make of this? What's your, take on how he handles this on his own platform? He's not going to be on ESPN, but he is going to be on Club Shay. Does he talk about it? Does he brag about it? What does he do about it?
So last night, as I was preparing for the show, I checked his Twitter feed, and right now on Twitter for the last couple of weeks and maybe 2 months, he only reposts content from his own network. So it's either Club Shay repost or Nightcap repost. He's not just tweeting as if he's his own man. Before the incident broke or news broke, he would tweet and he would interact with people. But now it's just strictly, hey, I'm only going to repost my content. But let's be clear. I'm not condoning or condemning anything Shannon did because I was not there. I understand that him losing out on the ESPN contract and bag is a big deal. I don't think that if the four of us were to see Shannon Sharpe talking sports on a network in the next 3 to 5 years, it would shock any of us. And that's because we have short-term memory as a society. I know cancel culture has become a thing. I don't know what year or even when the term was coined, but people cancel people who they want to cancel. If they have an affinity for somebody, if they have an affection for somebody, if they like somebody, they're not going to cancel that person. I saw an entire group of people turn on Drake during a rap battle only to come back to the same side. I see people still playing R. Kelly. I see people still saying, maybe Mr. Huxtable wasn't that bad. So it all depends on how you feel about the person individually. We're old enough to know that crimes against humanity are not good. Whether you're stealing from somebody, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's kidnapping somebody, we all can acknowledge as a society that is a bad thing to do to somebody. But like I said, I don't think there's anything that's so egregious that someone can do under the sun where an entire group of people are going to say, I'm no longer going to support, listen to, watch, consume this person in any way, shape, or form. Can Shannon stand to grow and learn from this experience? Of course he can. I don't know what that lesson is. That's something he has to address with himself. All I know is that if people were so outraged with what he was accused of, or if they felt it in their hearts that he was truly guilty, they wouldn't be going to sit down on that couch. And if you recall prior to this, once the Cat Williams interview happened, everyone was fiending to sit on that couch because they felt like it was a stimulus package. Like if I go sit with Shannon, that interview is going to take me out of here and it might expose me to whatever. So this storm will be weathered. Shannon will weather this storm, and we'll see how he comes out on the other side of it.
Well, let me ask you this, Marcus, since you've been doing all the recognizance for us. Thank you for all of your crack investigative journalism.
Okay.
Who is on the couch now? So now that the story has broken during this last, several months as the settlement was being negotiated, was he doing live interviews? And if so, who was he interviewing?
So while this was happening, he wasn't doing live interviews. He's still been doing this Nightcap show with Ocho Cinco. And has the quality of guests been what it was prior to the news happening? I'd probably say no. But again, everyone's chasing that Cat Williams interview, and that's not going to happen, right? That Cat Williams interview, I think, is at 90 million views on YouTube, which is absurd. That's almost like Joe Rogan numbers. But if you look at it, like I said, for someone who is a pro football Hall of Famer and an independent, quote unquote, contractor, he's getting 600 to 700,000 views no matter who sits down. His short clip videos are getting 300,000 views. And again, if we believe the numbers that are being reported, that is exceptional because not every former athlete or Hall of Famer is having that type of success in the media space. Whether we like, love, or hate Shannon, the person, as a media personality, he is still hot as fish grease and he is valuable, which is why I wouldn't be shocked if a network, whether it be ESPN, Fox, CBS, or somebody who he's had tenure with, gives him a chance in the future because there is value there. When he speaks, there's value. He has an audience. People are inclined to hear what he wants to say, which is not something you can say for a lot of people in this space.
No doubt about it. Those numbers speak volumes. And I tend to agree with you as much as I dislike it. And I think there needs to be more consequences for people who engage in this kind of conduct. Particularly, I'm so disturbed around the 19-year-old and the optics and the way we were starting to make a lot of progress with the Me Too movement and women, particularly women of color, being believed when they reported sexual assault. And when we see cases like this, like you said, Dr. Dibinga, you got this lawyer who tends to make these really exaggerated statements, then he walks them back. And it just muddies the waters and makes it really difficult to know if this is a case where we need to be on our soapbox, screaming at the top of our lungs about, patriarchy and how women are treated in our society, or if this is just a part of this lawyer's kind of play with, celebrity folks like Shannon who do stupid things, like Shay said, and then, you do stupid things and you face these consequences. I don't know, Shay. Marcus seems to feel like, hey, this is going to be just a blip on the radar screen. A month from now, 6 months from now, a year or two from now, some big network is going to pick Shannon up because his numbers or what people care about more so than the image or more so than the scandal that follows him. Is that where we are in society? Is if you can produce the numbers, if you can go viral, if you
No,
can get 2 million views, that's all that matters?
no. As lovely as that sounds, the answer is no. I don't want to get all crazy and black power with it, but like Malcolm X said, media controls the minds of the masses. Once you don't have the side of the media, you can wrap it up. Okay, nobody's bigger than the program, and I feel like that's what happens sometimes when us black people, we become wealthy, or we might tend to fall in a different tax bracket, and we start getting this power. We start believing that somehow we compete with that type of privilege in the programming. And they show us time and time again through history that we do not. We don't even have that privilege. So do I think he becomes successful outside of this? Can he bounce back? Do we count him out? Only if he is playing this game smarter than what he has already played it. But if he continues on with this egotistical, everything's funny, not taking his life and his legacy serious, I'm telling you, they will get him out of here. We can wrap this up. There will be no Shannon Sharpe. They will find a way. The power structure in itself will find a way to shut it down. Oh, you think you created your own? Well, you have to have your package platform somewhere. We'll make sure the deals with YouTube aren't going through. We'll make sure they will find a way to shut you down, if so be it. And to be completely honest, if he doesn't learn and grow from this, shut him down. That's how I feel. Why even play? Why are we even talking about this? To be completely honest, again, this was Shannon. I'm honestly, I'm disappointed. I'm gonna keep it real. I am such a huge fan. I've seen him grow so much as a media personality, and I saw what could become in the potential. And so basically, you fumble in your own bag. And what you can't do is underestimate your opponent by any means necessary. And I think he's going into this.
Go ahead. Finish
Go ahead.
up. No, I was just gonna say we got 2 points of views, and I'm gonna let Dr. Dibinga be the tiebreaker. Marcus is saying, "Hey, it might be bad, may look bad today, but his prediction is, given these numbers, he's gonna end up on another network or potentially another big deal because he can bring his audience, and that audience is huge." Shay says, "Don't get it twisted. You ain't bigger than life, and you can face consequences, and you can be canceled." What do you say, Dr. Dibinga? Which side of this line are you falling on? Do you think that we as consumers can separate someone's talent as a media personality, a performer, from their action, so they can be convicted like Bill Cosby, like R. Kelly? Marcus says, "Hey, we still out there doing, dancing to R. Kelly. We're still enjoying his music, even though he has been convicted and is serving essentially a life in prison."
Now, before Dr. answers, Marcus, you a lie. Because ain't nobody playing Step in the Name of Love at anybody's cookout no more. And you know that.
Wait. Hold on. If you're saying people aren't playing it, okay, cool. I may agree with you, but I don't fully. But if it comes on, ain't a soul in there gonna sit down and say, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that."
Nobody said turn that off. Get that
It's
off.
okay.
They are, DJ. Cut the track. We done forgot the electric slide. We forgot the moves.
It doesn't make you a bad person. Hell, Michael Jackson was accused of stuff, and we still love Michael Jackson.
Okay, wait a minute.
Right, that's different. That's different.
I said
Wait a minute. We got to.
Yeah, like now we're getting crazy.
I just said accused.
Okay, leave the king
Shannon was
alone. We ain't
accused.
going there on Michael.
There's
I
an
like
exception to every rule. Michael's the exception.
I like Mike when he changed his nose, and we forgave him. It's cool. Forgiveness.
Not going there with Mike. All right, Dr. Dibinga, you got the last word on this. Are we as a society so depraved? Are we so thirsty and hungry for entertainment that we don't care if you're a mass murderer, a rapist, a criminal? We just love it because you can entertain us and make us feel good.
Well, it depends on the person. I mean, if it's your guy, you're going to ride for your guy no matter what. I saw when somebody asked about Tom Brady when he didn't say anything about Ray Rice beating up his wife or fiance. They said he didn't have to speak up on domestic violence because he's so talented. He doesn't have to speak. Donald Trump, when people say, can he really shoot somebody in the middle of Madison Avenue or whatever and get away with it? Some people respond, it depends on the person he shoots, right? So some people are going to ride with their guy no matter what. I mean, Michael Jackson, to me, is not part of this conversation because the FBI investigated him for 10 years and found nothing. Can't get away with doing anything to white boys, and they find nothing. So he would have been done. But really, at the end of the day, I think that Shay brings up a good point as well, that people will dial you back. You look at Jonathan Majors, as well. People will dial you back and humble you. But here's my biggest concern about Shannon Sharpe. In the interview with Monique, when Monique was telling him, yo, you got to stop this, you know what his response was? I can't. Not I won't, not I don't have to, I can't. So that shows, as a guy who's been so committed to his body and discipline, that shows that there's a certain level of discipline as it relates to this stuff that could get him in trouble again. And so I think that, as they say, how you do anything is how you do everything. He doesn't treat his body like he treats his relationships. And so if he doesn't have that type of discipline, he will get in trouble again. People will dial him down. And so I do believe that there's a possibility for forgiveness, but it's going to come with him having the right actions and not getting himself involved in situations like this. And I'm just not convinced that he has the discipline to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I am on both sides of the argument here.
Okay, Dr. Dibinga, you split the baby.
Yes.
You just
you can't let me
right in half. So I'm gonna just
thank you. You gotta pick a side.
Voice on this. I'm with you, Marcus. Unfortunately, we are at a point in this society. If you can get looks, likes, views on social, if you can bring an audience that Shannon Sharpe and others like him can bring, Donald Trump is, exhibit A for this argument. Unfortunately, I think we are at that point. And I think you're right, Marcus. We're probably going to see this guy surface someplace else. And unfortunately, Shay, I don't think he is going to learn. Dr. Dibinga just said he can't stop his behavior. But more importantly, I think there's a segment of our society that's going to reward him. I think there's bros that are tuning in to that podcast because they want to hear more details and they want to see him engage in this conduct because people like watching train wrecks. That's why reality TV is so popular. That's why we watch grown ass women throw pies at each other because we like watching train wrecks, and it's horrible. I hate it, but that's where we are in our society. And I just wish that this case moved us further in terms of the Me Too movement, because that's what I care about. I care about young women being subjected to abuse from men. And let's face it, at 19, you are a baby. You are barely legal in this country. Your mind isn't developed until you're probably 25, 26. So engaging in a sexual relationship with a 54-year-old man, basically he's having sex with a 12-year-old. And that's just gross any way we look at it. And so we got a lot to learn. We got a lot of work to do. And as we know, Shannon Sharpe is not the first high-profile voice to fall from favor. Again, how we respond as fans, as a network, as a society will shape the future of accountability. And right now, unfortunately, we ain't holding folks very accountable. And we all have to take some responsibility from that. So, Marcus, the next time you get ready to turn on Club Shay, think about me, think about Shy, think about Dr. Dibinga's 19-year-old daughter, think about my daughters, think about all the daughters, the ones that you may have or may have in the future, your nieces, your cousins. Think about all of us and how difficult it is for us as women, particularly Black women, to have our voices heard, particularly in the context of sexual assault. Oh, guys, we are out of time. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. D. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thank you, Shay, always bringing it. And Marcus, thank you for all that research and helping us make sure we are factual about everything Shannon Sharpe. We're going to be watching this story. We're going to see what happens to him. We're going to see if those numbers continue to climb or if he does face some consequences beyond the loss of this huge ESPN contract, which, hopefully is going to resonate with others. I'm always looking to see how does the conduct of one impact the conduct of others. Is anybody else going to learn anything about how they are conducting themselves in the world as a result of the termination of Shannon Sharpe's ESPN contract. We'll be watching. Until next time, I'm Areva Martin, and this is The Special Report.
Calling all BIPOC college students, recent college graduates, and clinicians. Here's my story about CORE, a unique workforce development program that is changing lives. My brother is the most caring person you will ever meet. With his autism diagnosis, my family had to fight to make sure that the resources he deserved were available. That's why my goal has always been to help children with developmental disabilities and give them chances my brother may have missed. So when I heard about the CORE Fellowship, I knew immediately it was for me. The fellowship opens doors for myself and others like me. They offer training, a stipend while you're learning, job placement, and they'll pay up to $10,000 of my student loan debt. The CORE Fellowship is going to allow me to achieve my life's purpose. They care about me, so I can care about others, like my brother. Visit the website to learn more about the CORE Fellowship. Discover your core passion, your power, and your purpose. Apply today.